Pure alpha represented the best way we knew to actively manage money. But we also knew that if we wanted to manage a meaningful amount of institutional money, we had to accept the reality that only a limited number of innovative clients would try the approach. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing really well. It looks like it's a beautiful day today, and it's a beautiful day for doing some reading as well. So we're going to be reading Ray Dalio principles. At the end, I'll tell you how you can watch the recordings that you might have missed, because yesterday I recorded some extra because I used up my spare videos during the seminar that I was at last week, which was a really good seminar. But it was just really difficult to be able to do the reading. I was at the beach. I was helping out and doing things at 8 a.m. Sydney time. No matter how I rearranged, it was not working. But I was able to let most of you know, I think, and it's so good to have you all back. And we're back to the normal routine, and today we are going to continue reading. So we've read a little bit extra, so you can watch those recordings on YouTube at the Passive Cash Flow Club, so feel free to join us there. And at the end, I'll also tell you how you can get in touch with me and how you can ask questions and have your questions turned into YouTube videos so that you can get the answers to your questions, and other people might be able to also find you there. Mladen on Zoom has just asked if I am streaming on Bigo. I am. And we've got quite a few interesting people. We've got Jake from State From. Thanks for the heart. Susanna Hoffs. And let's have a look who else. We've got Keith Richards. Not sure if that's the real one, but anyhow. And Scott Isbell, pleased to know you. And Bladen has also just joined. But let's get into our reading. We are getting to the section which is called Getting Our Killer System Out into the World. We were just talking about Ray Dalio's system. I also watched a video yesterday about that system. Very interesting. So let's start this. Pure alpha represented the best way we knew to actively manage money. But we also knew that if we wanted to manage a meaningful amount of institutional money, we had to accept the reality that only a limited number of innovative clients would try the approach. So while we tried to convince clients to adopt our way, by the end of the 1990s and into the early 2000s, Pure Alpha made up only around 10% of our total assets under management. Even though we couldn't trade stocks and commodities in our pure bond accounts, we applied the portfolio structuring principles we discovered and used with Pure Alpha to give our bond clients higher returns at lower levels of risk. This included foreign government bonds, emerging market debt, inflation-linked bonds, corporate bonds, and the currency exposures that came with the foreign investments. In our most unconstrained bond portfolios, we would make about 50 different types of bets, way more than traditional bond managers traded. Doing so gave us a big edge and landed us at the top of many investment performance tables year after year. Our Pure Alpha product was just the first of a number of innovative designs we brought to our clients. In 1991, we had become the first currency overlay managers for institutional investors. At the time, institutional investors were placing larger portions of their portfolios into global equity and bond markets. While investing internationally added valuable diversity, it also added unmanaged currency exposure. This was a big problem because the currency exposures added risk without adding any expected return. We had traded currencies for years and had developed expertise in portfolio engineering, so we were in a prime position to solve this problem. Eventually, we became the largest active currency manager in the world. We also produced several other new and effective ways of managing money that flew exactly as they were designed. With each one, we gave clients clearly stated performance expectations expressed in a chart that showed an accumulative profit line and the expected variations around that line. We could do this because the systemization of our decision-making process allowed us to stress test the performance of our decision-making under a wide variety of conditions. So obviously, here Ray Dalio is looking to actually get people to buy and be interested in this new system that he's created. And he has tested it a lot. And he's about to talk about systemizing our learning from mistakes And I am doing the exact same thing with some of the trading that I am doing at the moment. I am creating ideas around how it might work, and then I am testing to see whether they work. And I'm doing that on a practice account first, and then when it looks like they work, I test them on the real thing. And there's a difference between the real thing and a practice account. Just like there's a difference between the cash flow that we played online yesterday, which is the simulator, and the real life. But you need that bridge. You want to have that ability to test things in a simulation first. Now, what is the difference? So in the simulator, you are playing a game, you are having fun. You don't have a lot of emotion, stress, or anxiety because you know that there's no real money involved. When you are doing the real thing, this is where there's a difference between very good investors and just good investors. When you're doing the real thing, you know that there's real money at stake. You have real emotions, and you might start to do things that are a little bit silly that you wouldn't do in the game because you don't feel the pressure in the game. And so you might close a position that you really don't need to close because you know that eventually it'll come back up. You might have something else happen where somebody gets upset and you don't go ahead with the deal because you just don't feel comfortable in that situation. Whereas if it was the game, you would still go ahead with the decision. So it is really important to be able to simulate, not just with a trading account that is a practice account, but also by playing games like cash flow that allow you to simulate what is going to happen in real life. So you can test strategies and do lots of really amazing things. And in just a moment, I will also share how you can come and join us. Actually, I'll let you know now as well because people are coming and going. So it'll be good to share right now. But some hearts coming through, and I really appreciate that. So great to see you all. So if you want to get in touch and if you want to know more about that game and how you can simulate in order to practice not just trading, but everything that is finance related, and you want to create a wealth creation portfolio, then send me a message at business_team_6, the number _official. So business_team_6_official on Instagram, and you'll be able to get in touch and ask your questions, as well as let me know that you're interested in cash flow, and I'll get my VA, my virtual assistant, to send you the details. But let's continue for now and read some more. Systemizing our learning from mistakes. Of course, we continue to make mistakes, but they were all within our range of expectations. What was great is that we made the most of our mistakes because we got in the habit of viewing them as opportunities to learn and improve. And I've definitely done that yesterday. One of our most memorable mistakes happened in the early 1990s when Ross, who was in charge of trading at the time, forgot to put a trade for a client and the money just sat there in cash. By the time the mistake was discovered, the damage was several $100,000. It was a terrible and costly error, and I could have done something dramatic like fire Ross to set a tone that mistakes would not be tolerated. But since mistakes happen all the time, that would have only encouraged other people to hide theirs, which would have led to even bigger and more costly errors. I believe strongly that we should bring problems and disagreements to the surface to learn what should be done to make things better. So Ross and I worked to build out an error log in the trading department. From then on, anything that was any kind of bad outcome, trade wasn't executed, we paid significant higher transaction costs than expected, etc., the traders would make a record of it and we would follow up. As we consistently tracked and addressed those issues, our trade execution machine continually improved. And this is very, very important. It is absolutely true and absolutely the case that many people will fire people or get upset when something bad happens. The challenge with that is that it makes other people uncomfortable, and human nature is human nature. And when you get upset with other people, when you only focus on the problems or the mistakes or the issues that people have, then it makes it, people are going to be very, very different around you. And they will hide things from you. They will lie to you. They will do lots of different things that are not to your advantage. It might seem like a short-term great solution, but really it is a very bad solution for you. So in business, in life, in everything, when you're dealing with people, it's really good to encourage people to let you know what mistakes were made, and to not chastise them for it, but to work together with them to come up with a solution so that you don't have the issue of people hiding things, and you're creating a culture where things, what's the best way to describe it, where things are hidden in plain sight in order to be able to appear as if they are better than they are, because that gives you no information, and without information you can't deal or act or make adjustments. Also, if you just fire people very, very quickly, you get to a point very quickly where people will no longer want to work for you, people will avoid you, people will really not want to have anything to do with you. So it's very important to learn as much as you can about human nature and how you can deal with the human psyche in the best way, and then you can get some really amazing results out of it. So this is something that's always fascinated me, and I love how Ray says that he doesn't want people to hide their mistakes, so he makes it openly okay for people to make mistakes, and then they can work on the solutions together, because now he has access to those mistakes so that they can find out what they can improve. They can sit down at the end of the week and say, this went wrong, that went wrong, that went wrong. How can we fix that? Whereas if it's hidden, he doesn't know that it happened. The client is upset, but he doesn't know why the client's upset. And it's just a snowball of more and more issues and more problems. And it just compounds and compounds and gets worse and worse. So this is a really great example of what to do to prevent that. Having a process that ensures problems are brought to the surface and their root causes diagnosed assures the continual improvements occur. For that reason, I insisted that an issue log be adopted throughout Bridgewater. My rule was simple. If something went badly, you had to put it in the log, categorize its severity, and make clear who was responsible for it. If a mistake happened and you logged it, you were okay. If you didn't log it, you would be in deep trouble. This way, managers had problems brought to them, which was worlds better than having to seek them out. The error log, which we now call the issue log, was our first management tool. I learned subsequently how important tools are in helping to reinforce desired behaviors, which led us to create a number of tools I will describe later. This culture of bringing problems and disagreements to the surface generated a lot of discomfort and conflict, especially when it came to exploring people's weaknesses. Before long, things came to a boil. My intractable people problem. Here we go. That should be interesting. One winter day in 1993, Bob, Giselle, and Dan proposed taking me out to dinner with the stated purpose of giving Ray feedback on how he affects people and company morale. They sent me a memo first, gist of which was that my way of operating was having a negative effect on everyone in the company. Here's how they put it. What Ray does well. He's very bright and innovative. He understands markets and money management. He is intense and energetic. He has very high standards and passes those to others around him. He has good intentions about teamwork, building group ownership, providing flexible work conditions to employees, and compensating people well. What Ray doesn't do well. Ray sometimes says or does things to employees which makes them feel incompetent, unnecessary, humiliated, overwhelmed, belittled, this is a long list, oppressed, or otherwise bad. The odds of this happening rise when Ray is under stress. At these times, his words and actions towards others create animosity towards him and leave a lasting impression. The impact of this is that people are demotivated rather than motivated. This reduces productivity and the quality of the environment. The effect reaches far beyond the single employee. The smallness of the company and the openness of communication means that everyone is affected when one person is demotivated, treated badly, not given due respect. The future success of the company is highly dependent on Ray's ability to manage people as well as money. If he doesn't manage people well, growth will be stunted and we will all be affected. That hurt and surprised me. I never imagined that I was having that sort of effect. These people were my extended family. I didn't want them to feel incompetent, unnecessary, humiliated, overwhelmed, belittled, oppressed, or otherwise bad. Why didn't they tell me directly? What was I doing wrong? Where were my standards too high? For Bridgewater to continue to be a 1 in 10,000 type company, we had to have exceptional people and hold them to extremely high standards. Was I demanding too much? This too looked to me like another one of those fork in the road cases in which I had to choose between one of those two seemingly essential but mutually exclusive options. One, being radically truthful with each other, including probing to bring our problems and weaknesses to the surface so we could deal with them forthrightly, and two, having happy and satisfied employees. And it reminded me that when faced with this choice between two things you need that are seemingly at odds, go slowly to figure out how you can have as much as possible of both. There is almost always a good path that you just haven't figured out yet, so look for it until you find it, rather than settle for the choice that is then so apparent. My first step was to make sure I knew exactly what the problems were and how to handle them. So I asked Bob, Giselle, and Dan what they thought was going on. I learned that they personally, and many others who knew me well, weren't as demoralized by me as some others because they understood my heart was in a good place. If they hadn't known that, they would have quit because, as they put it, I wasn't paying them enough money to put up with my crap. Interesting. They knew that I wanted the best for them and Bridgewater, and to get that, I needed to be radically truthful with them, and I needed them to be radically truthful with me. This wasn't only because it produced better results, but also because being truthful with each other was fundamental to how I believe we should be with each other. We agreed that being this way was essential, but since it was making some people feel bad, something had to change. While those people I had contact with understood me, liked me, and in some cases even loved me, those who had less contact with me were offended by my directness. It was clear that I needed to be better understood and to understand others better. I realized then how essential it is that people in relationships must be crystal clear about their principles for dealing with each other. That began our decades-long process of putting our principles into writing, which evolved into the work principles. Those principles were both agreements for how we would be with each other and my reflections on how we should handle every situation that came up. Since most type of situations arose repeatedly with slight variations, these principles were continually refined. As for our agreements with each other, the most important one was our need to do three things: put our honest thoughts on the table, have thoughtful disagreements in which people are willing to shift their opinions as they learn, and have agreed upon ways of deciding, example, voting, having clear authorities, if the disagreements remain so that we can move beyond them without resentment. Those are really amazing rules. Honesty, very, very important, very good. Thoughtful disagreements where people are willing to shift their opinions as they learn. That one is extremely important. A lot of people never happy, never open to shift their opinions at all. They know what it is that they think that they know, and they will stick with that, and they will fight for it, and they will disagree to the bitter end. Whereas very often when something happens, and I know for me it happens quite often, I will believe something, and then somebody will show me that it's not correct. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes obviously it does happen. And when it happens, I will take a step back and say, wow, I didn't know that that was the case. I'm happy to accept that. I have changed my opinion, and I will look into it quite deeply in order to be able to see what the meaning is and how it fits together. I believe that for any organization or for any relationship to be great, these things are required. I also believe that for a group decision-making system to be effective, the people using it have to believe that it's fair. Having our work principles written out and getting in sync about them are in the same way we had with our investment principles were essential for our understanding each other, especially since our unique way of operating, this radical truth and radical transparency that led to our unique results, is counterintuitive and emotionally challenging for some. Trying to understand how we could get our meaningful work and meaningful relationships through this straightforwardness led me to speak with neuroscientists, psychologists, and educators over the decades that followed. I learned a lot, which I can summarize as follows. There are two parts of each person's brain, the upper level logistical part and the lower level emotional part. I call these the two U's. They fight for control of each person. How that conflict is managed is the most important driver of our behaviors. That fighting was the biggest reason for the problems Bob, Giselle, and Dan raised. While the logical part of people's brain could easily understand that knowing one's weakness is a good thing, because it's the first step forward getting around them, the emotional part typically hates it. Okay, and that brings us to chapter 5, but before we talk about chapter 5, I think, I'm not sure. He doesn't actually go into the details, but I think that one thing that Ray probably noticed from this episode is that the people that he wasn't in close contact with, so Ray, Dan, and Giselle and Ross, they were in very, very close contact. So they knew where his heart was and what he wanted to achieve. The people who were a little bit further away, who didn't see him that often, those were the ones who had some issues. So if he's able to get a little bit closer to everybody, and he already does the right thing by studying the psychology, which I just mentioned earlier, and the more you understand human behavior, human psychology, the more adaptable you are, the more flexible you can be in your approach to what is happening, to be able to come up with innovative ideas rather than just react. And most places you will see just react. And react is terrible and horrible, and it is a disaster waiting to happen. So that was a really interesting insight into human behavior and how Ray Dalio was able to overcome this people problem that he had, where some people saw him as extremely negative. So that has been our video for today. We're going to stop the recording in just a moment. But before we go, if you have missed any of these videos, if you would like to see the other books that we've read, if you would be interested in seeing some of the questions people have sent that I have answered, you can do that at the Passive Cash Flow Club, and we would love to see you there. Make sure that you subscribe, because we don't only upload this video every single day, but we also have, I think it's about weekly, that we are putting out question and answer videos where your questions are answered. So if you want to be able to have a question answered, if you have a burning investment or wealth creation or other kind of question, then send me a message on Instagram. You can find me at business_team_6_official. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you and answering your questions and putting it up on YouTube. And it could be beneficial for other people as well. So you might find a question that you haven't asked that has already been answered on the YouTube channel. So the Passive Cash Flow Club, come and join us over there. Business_team_6_official is where you will find me, and you can ask any questions that you have. And if you're interested in that cash flow game and that simulation, which is much more realistic than anything else that you could potentially find, you can also ask about that, and I'll get my VA, my virtual assistant, to send you the details. So just before we go, remember to make the switch to unlock your rich, because there is so much potential when you learn the lessons from this book and many others. Always learn from the people ahead of you and make that switch. If you keep doing everything the same way that you've always done it, then you're not going to unlock the rich. But if you make the switch, that's when you can unlock your rich. I'll see you tomorrow for another reading. Have an absolutely amazing day today.